What if the question isn't whether you can afford to change careers? What if the question is whether you can afford not to? See, the world has changed right now. You've got the emergence of AI, you've got unemployment at an all-time high. And one of the things that I've been reflecting on recently is about times in my career where I've had a decision to make, where I've had a change that I've needed to make. A few years ago, I was in a very successful corporate role. I was working for an organization in the gym industry, and high salary, all the perks, all the things you could ever possibly imagine. Sales director was the title, which was it turned out to be a completely pointless title, so it turned out. And I was in that job. It was a bit of a dream job. It was definitely a job that I pursued. It was definitely something that I really wanted. And six weeks into that job, I resigned. And there's a lot of reasons why I resigned. One of the main reasons was I felt culturally that the business wasn't the right fit for me. I didn't quite get on with one of the other directors. But the main reason was that at that time I'd got into personal development. And I was aware of the Tony Robbinses, and I was aware of the Brendan Burchards and the Jim Rohns and the Zig Ziglars and the Brian Tracy. I was aware of this stuff. And that kind of personal development, or self-help as it was known, had started to kind of open my eyes to what was possible. And it had made me feel like there was more opportunity out there in the world for me than maybe up until that point I thought. My mum ran a gym for 20 years. I was in a sales job in the gym industry for 8 years. And then as a result, I subsequently went in to become a sales director for a national gym company. And it felt like that was the logical thing to do. Gyms, more gyms. And then as I got into this kind of personal development world and I started reading books, I started to realize, what if there's more out there for me? And I'd had a small window of time with a coaching company who were very progressive, very forward thinking. The business owners are now a long-term friend of mine called Dan, and he's the same age as me. And it was evidently clear that the trajectory that he was going on was what I after seeing him, realized, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm not going to be able to achieve that. It was evidently clear there was things that he was doing. It was evidently clear that there was things that he was doing that I would need to make a change for me to be able to do. And so that's why I left that organization. And I actually went on to subsequently work for Dan for a number of years. And that actually turned out to be a really, really good decision. And I also think about years before that being in another really good job, which was paying really well. I was 20 years old. I just started my career in the gym industry in sales. Great job, Christmas holidays paid for in Hawaii and Singapore and all this kind of stuff. And a year into this job, I went with a friend to a Greek island called Kos to visit his then girlfriend. And a friend of mine invited me to go. I went along, I had a great time. I became the third wheel to him and his girlfriend, and I subsequently befriended all the workers who worked in the bar. And to cut a very long story short, went home, quit my job, went back out and worked in Greece for 4 months and had one of the best times of my life, earning 15 euros a night in a bar. And my boss at the time said I was crazy, but he understood from a values point of view why I was doing it. The reason I'm telling you all those things is because I really do feel that it is so important to analyze where you're at in your career. Tony Robbins has got a great saying for this. He says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I think what he's trying to say is, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. You can always make more money, but if you're not enjoying the process, if you're not loving what you're doing, that is a lot of time earning money, exchanging time for money, if you're not loving what you do. And I'm not saying you can just you should just quit your job and go and work in a bar in Greece for 15 euros a night. If you're anything like me now, you've got kids and responsibilities, but I think it's worth at least considering starting to maybe plant some seeds about the next phase of your life if what you're doing right now is not truly what you feel. If you were at the end of your life, you would not perhaps regret if that's all you did until the end. So there's three key kind of points that I want to kind of share with you in this video. Really simple, really practical things that may help you. Number one is honest reflection. Most people aren't spending enough time in honest reflection. I was on a men's group call earlier. If you don't know what men's group is, it's a space where men just kind of jump on and talk about what they're feeling and what's going on and what's bothering them. And it's especially powerful for men who are entrepreneurs and are also juggling being married and having kids and all the challenges that come with that as a male. And I'm sure there are great women's groups out there as well. So for me, honest reflection is really, really important, really powerful, whether it's a men's group or a women's group, whether it's a session with a coach, whether it's even just speaking out into ChatGPT, right? I believe there's some power in that. I think honest reflection, being really honest with yourself about where you're at. Are you happy with where you're at? Is it what you would want to do forever and a day given the choice is really important. Number two is what we call the comfort trap. When I left the company that I was with to go to work in Greece, one of the things I was very conscious of was comfort. The only reason why I would have stayed was for comfort. The only reason why I'd have stayed in the sales director 6-figure salary was comfort. And I realized, again, referencing Tony Robbins again for a minute, forgive me, but hey, I'm telling you this is where it's coming from. He talks about the 6 human needs. One of the greatest things I've heard Tony say is, because we all have 6 human needs, one is certainty, safety, and he said a lot of people have a high need for safety, high need for certainty, but he says that the quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to how much uncertainty they can handle. So for example, public speaking, it's something I do for a living. A lot of people are like, oh, I couldn't do that, right? But anything that you've ever done in your life which you were scared about, as long as there's not actual general physical risk for that, you know that on the other side of that is growth. Skydive, bungee jump, public speaking, no physical harm comes from it. On the other side of it is immense growth. So the second thing is being aware of, are you comfortable? And maybe in your career, it's not about, like when I started coaching, I didn't just quit the job that I was in the coaching industry. What I did is I went and upskilled. I went and learned new skills that I needed to learn, reinvested in myself, and then until I got to a point where my income from what I was doing part-time was at the same level as what I really was as my job, it wasn't until I got to that point that I was able to make the decision logically from a sense of safety. Maybe now I could make the jump and go and do something that I really, really want to do. And then the third thing is this concept of future regret. Another reference from Tony Robbins, who talks about this thing called the rocking chair test, which basically means if you got to the end of your life and you were looking back and you were reflecting on your life in that stereotypical rocking chair on an American front porch, would you be happy with everything that you achieved, or would there be some things that you may regret? And for me, I didn't realize that rocking chair concept at the time. I didn't realize that at the time. But looking back on reflection, the decision to leave a secure job and go and work in a bar, there was probably a bit of rocking chair test. Because I'm pleased now, age 43, and we just recently went back to the island for the first time in 23 years. I went back there, and I remember one of the things I felt as I went through the streets that I used to work in, I felt proud, like I'm so glad. And I could tell my kids, my little girl Sage, I said, Sage, Daddy used to work out here, and when she's older I'll be able to tell her. And if she's ever older, or my little boy Danny's older and they're in a job that they don't enjoy, and what they really want to do is go and travel the world, I will be in a congruent place to be able to say, hey, when I was in this position, here's what I did. rather than what a lot of people do, which is just trying to keep their children safe, and they don't realize they're actually doing more harm than good. I think it's important for us to get out of our comfort zone. So really analyze yourself. If you're at the end right now and you were looking back, would you have achieved everything you wanted to achieve? Or is there something in your career that maybe you haven't done that maybe you would love to do? Which brings me to my last point. One of the things that I've done in my career as a result of some great advice from mentors is I've taken the coaching that I do with people. I've had the privilege of delivering events on behalf of people like Tony Robbins, sharing the stages with people like Stephen Bartlett, Grant Cardone, Marie Forleo, and I have turned the coaching that I do into a program. We got it certified, we got it accredited internationally, and we've had now over probably 700 people that have been through our internationally accredited program. And I want to invite you to a training live online with me, where for about 75 minutes, I'll walk you through what it might look like for you to go from where you are now, having maybe not a clue about coaching, and how maybe perhaps within the next 90 days, you could go from now where you are to having a diary full of potentially coaching clients, and maybe perhaps even having a new career that could either go alongside what you currently do, or perhaps could even, as some of our students have done, becomes your primary thing that you do in your world. So somewhere around the video should be a link for you to go ahead and register for that training. If it's not there, just post in the comments, can't find the link, and I'll share that link with you. For now though, I hope you've enjoyed this video, I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you on the next one. See you soon, bye bye.